Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about what is Shincha and how exciting it is. Now before we begin, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so these episodes come fresh to you. Also post a comment if you like the video. And I'll make sure I put some pertinent, germane banners up here for relevant stuff. And a lot of relevant stuff is going to have to do with Japanese green tea. Because when we think of Shincha, we think of mostly Japanese green tea. So Shin means new, cha means of course tea. So as the name would suggest, it's the first tea of the year. Now this will be everywhere in the world that tea has grown, but really Shincha, or the kind of the celebration around Shincha is more in China and more in Japan, but definitely in Japan, but certainly in China. So why is this important? Well, okay, so this is going to be the first plucks of the season. And depending on where you're at in these two countries, early April, you're going to see the first young buds. And remember, we've talked about in the episode of where you're plucking the leaves determines a lot of things: caffeine level, sweetness, and so forth. So the baby plucks are the most prized part of the Camellia sinensis plant. And so the very early buds of the early buds, of course, is going to be the best. It's almost akin to like a debutante ball and men wanting to get a virgin when they marry a young woman. It's kind of like that. It's the creme de la creme, so to speak, of the old. That's probably not the best metaphor, but it's the best metaphor I could think of. So Shincha is going to be picked very early on. And because it's picked early on, it's going to have a couple of things. It's going to have a higher caffeine level, and it's going to have a kind of a mellowness to it. And this is celebrated. And so when these first early plucks, the baby plucks are plucked, and then they're put into a green tea, or they're going to be kill-greened and processed. When these hit the market, these are very prized, and they can be very expensive because it's the first harvest of the year. And because it's the first harvest of the year, people are kind of in a good mood because this is like the new season of wine. You kind of see this played out also with wine, right? So this is the first teas that are coming out of the year. And so there's kind of excitement to it, and it's hopefully a positive, for lack of a better word, harbinger of the year to come, a possible prospect, positive prospects for the tea season, the tea harvest that's to come. Now, when it comes to drinking Shincha, every cultivar will have it. So it's not like there's like the national Japanese Shincha of the year. No, this is just the first pluck and processing of a particular cultivar. And we talked about recently what is a cultivar. So you're going to see Shincha of different types of green tea all through Japan. In this case, we're talking about Japan, but all through Japan, China, all the different prefectures. Shizuoka makes a lot of sencha. So you're going to see a lot of those tea masters making their own cultivars, Shincha, and so forth. Now, Shincha tends to be, as I mentioned, higher in caffeine and mellower in sweetness. So when I think of Shincha, I think mostly of Gyokuro, and I think of Sencha. Now, Gyokuro, if you go to the episode, I'll make sure I put it here in the banner. Gyokuro is made when they shade the plant before plucking. And what that does is it increases the caffeine level and increases the sweetness. And Gyokuro is considered kind of like the highest of high-level Japanese tea. Not, if you exclude matcha, because matcha is ceremonial, but if you look at like infused tea, Gyokuro is the highest level, and we do sell Gyokuro. And so when you drink Gyokuro, you're getting prized tea. So imagine getting the Shincha of Gyokuro. It's like even super sweeter, super mellower. The liqueur is fluorescently green, and it's pretty expensive when you get the Shincha of Gyokuro. Same for Sencha. Sencha is grown larger the same way that Gyokuro is, but they finesse it a little. There's not as much of the shading, but it's the same thing. So Shincha, the first plucks, it has a very fresh, raw taste. Some people believe that Shincha is overrated because it's like the baby buds, and they haven't had time to kind of mellow out and mature. So what they do is the Aracha is kind of like the early batch before they do the final processing, like drying the tea. So they'll get the Aracha of the Shincha. I know there's a lot of terminology. And then they'll vacuum it, and then later they'll sell it so it's even more mellow. But some people believe like, oh no, the Shincha, it's too raw, that you need to let it kind of develop in flavor and so forth. But overall, Shincha is considered the creme de la creme. People are happy when it comes out because it's the first plucks of the season, and it tends to taste the best, tend to taste the freshest, tends to just have a great liquor to it, and therefore it's highly prized and expensive. So if you ever go to any of the countries that produce tea, but certainly China and Japan, if you're in there in early May, hit the tea markets to look for whatever particular cultivars, Shincha. Be ready to pay a lot, but it's something that is very unique and very highly prized, and I would recommend you take it home. You get the Shincha of the 2024 Sencha or the Gyokuro, wherever you are in Japan. Guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Until next time, take care and God bless.